My job is to basically show why everything these guys have said is objectively wrong, and to do so would require more hours than there are atoms in the universe, which is finite, but it's fucking huge. So I can only pick up on a few of the points. The first one was raised by Ken Dole over there, and he talked about economics. He talked about free market. So let's think about the free market. In a free market, we know, in a free market, perfectly free market in equilibrium, we know that there can be no externalities. And one externality is global warming. That is, when you produce or you consume, you shoot up carbon emissions into the sky, and the emissions impose a cost on the third party, on other people. That's not how a market works. A free market, by definition, must internalize that cost. So what you do is you tax it. So if you believe in the free market, you actually have to support this tax. So therefore, you lose. They also raised the fact that compensation would destroy the incentive to cut your pollution. Wrong. Wrong. A good example or analogy is that during the Queensland floods, banana prices went up something like $12 a kilo. At the same time, or during the same period, a lot of workers' wages also increased as well, so that more than offset the rise in prices. But are those workers going to be buying the same quantity of bananas that they did before? No. They'll go to buy apples, and then they'll use the leftover money to go to other goods and services. So no, elementary economics tells us that there is no difference, and it's not going to affect incentives. So once again, you lose. You're wrong. They also raised compensation as a bad thing. Now, for the poor, as we've argued, it's ethically justified, right? Because they've done it tough for quite a long time, so we're not just interested in efficiency, we're also introducing this idea of equity. For the rich, we say get over it. We say get over it. We say that you can do without your 3 or 4 BMW four-wheel drives, you can do with one, and you can pay the cost on your own. So, get over it. Now, this idea is actually pretty radical. The modern Labour Party understands the power of markets. That's why Keating introduced all the reforms. That's why Hawke introduced the reforms. The modern Liberal Party is not. And this is a common misconception. Conservatives are not neoliberals. They don't support necessarily the free market because that threatens a lot of institutions. That threatens a lot of institutions. A conservative's instinct is to preserve existing institutions. During the Industrial Revolution, conservatives were saying, we cannot have this. It's going to destroy our dirty polluting industries. Oh, agriculture, we want to keep these institutions. Now, if you follow this story, you have to close down inefficient industries. The coal industry, for example, will have to be shut down. That's what the free market tells us. Conservatives will oppose this, just like they did in the Industrial Revolution. They're Luddites. They're committed to 19th century relics, like monarchies and capitalism as a mode of production. So really, we'll leave them in the past. You have a clear choice. You can support the progressiveness of markets, or you can support the Luddites also. Now, future generations, as we've talked about, are very important. We want to have equality of opportunity, and if you buy into this equality of opportunity, it doesn't just apply to your gender or your race, it also applies to your birthday. So we want to have some sort of standard of welfare to equalise across generations, and that's why the price is an important thing ethically. And Mr. Miles Parrish raised the idea of firms moving offshore, which I thought was interesting. Now, Comrade Goff mentioned our 5-year-old, ethically savvy 5-year-old. The wonderful thing about 5-year-olds is they're wonderful optimisers. They're great negotiators, right? So if you take, the government as the 5-year-old, our prudent 5-year-old, and you've got the mining industry as the parent, and the government wants to, watch a movie late at night, and the parent says, no, if you watch TV, we're going to take your TV away for the rest of your life. What's the 5-year-old going to do? Well, if they were in charge, we're going to go to bed. But no, our 5-year-old is very savvy. Our 5-year-old will say, yeah, right, and they'll go to flush a harmonica down the toilet or something. We understand that this is a game. This is an exchange. It happens in business all the time. Party A is proposing something that Party B doesn't want, so Party B proposes something really tough in response. Any mildly savvy government would say, don't you threaten us, or we'll threaten you, and we're just as good at it as you are. And businesses have done this all the time when Indigenous land rights legislation has been proposed, etc. They've all threatened to move offshore, and they should be seen for what it is. So really, we win, and it's a preemptive strike against Jabba. I would say she should unfreeze Han Solo immediately. Thank you.